Okay, we can sit up beautifully and enjoy three sounds of the bell. And really bring yourself fully here. So this is to train ourselves. We're training ourselves. There's that tendency to chatter, not only with our mouths, but also with our brain. And if you really want to be free, does anyone really want to be free? Can you raise your hand? All right, I really want to be free. So if we want to be free, we have to learn how to take care of that chattering in our mouth and in our brain, in our head. So I'm going to share a little bit today about how to do that. But first we need to practice. We need to center, okay? So focus on the sound of the bell. See if you can keep all your attention on your breathing during the whole three sounds of the bell, okay? Close your eyes. Relax your body. Sit up beautifully. And Brother Forrest will invite us to listen to three sounds of the bell. Good morning, dear teens. My name is Brother Stream, or Brother Phap in Vietnamese. And when people call me, they say he or him, or Thai. Thai means monk. Yeah. It can also mean nun. And I want to ask a question of all of you. How many of you want to train your minds to be free? Raise your hand. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to pay attention this morning, because I saw that in my Dhamma sharing group, the teens are very intelligent. I see some of you sitting in front here, Lowell and Joseph. Also there's Andrew. And sometimes adults, something I'm not so fond of is that sometimes as adults we talk down to teens. Did you ever experience that? So I hope you don't experience that with the monks and nuns. We want to share the best that we have with you. And so what I'm going to try to do today is share the best that I have learned in my 20 years as a monk, and how I train my mind to be free. So can you pay attention and put it into practice? Okay. So, how many of you know the word algorithm? Raise your hand. Many of you. You know, when I was a kid, hardly anyone knew what that word means. Now everyone knows algorithm. So an algorithm is a set of steps that we do to solve a problem, right? Kind of math problem. So the Buddha discovered a really interesting algorithm. He discovered an algorithm to help us become free and happy. And that's an ancient piece of technology. Most of us, we're used to a kind of algorithm which causes a lot of pain and hurt. So, for example, if you scroll down social media, and what's offered there is helping you compare yourself to what you see on the feed, right? Maybe somebody who's very beautiful, and then you look in the mirror like Sister Boinim had us do the other day, and you compare. And then you suffer. So that's what's called an algorithm of pain, I'll call it. And that is very normal. It's not new, even though social media has this, it's kind of new, but actually it's been going on for centuries, for thousands of years. That kind of comparing mind, where we compare ourselves with other people in our tribe, we compare ourselves with somebody who's going to marry that person. Why am I not important enough? Why am I not beautiful enough? This is an algorithm of pain and hurt. And this morning when we were chanting before the ceremony, you heard this word suffering. But I like to use the words pain and hurt sometimes because it's more real for me. That's what I experienced. I experienced pain. I experienced emotional hurt. And when we act, when we pay attention to things in a way that they cause us pain and hurt, that's an algorithm of hurt. It means we're getting in a kind of habitual way of acting. We have kind of habits that make us suffer. So the Buddha discovered this new algorithm, which I call the algorithm of freedom. It's also an algorithm of happiness. And the first step is to recognize the pain. So usually, like Brother Phap shared in the Q&A yesterday, when we're angry, we're just angry. We don't know that we're angry. So here, if we learn one thing, I ask you, when you go home, anytime you feel pain, anytime you feel some kind of hurt, like Sister Phu Nghiêm shared, we stop and recognize it, okay? So that's the first step. We need to recognize the pain, see the pain. See the pain or the hurt. So when we talk about concentration, we've been talking about mindfulness, mindfulness of breathing, mindfulness of eating, mindfulness of walking. When we talk about concentration, like Brother Phap pointed out the other day, the samadhi that we see up there, that second word on the stained glass, it means that we keep the mindfulness over time. So we maintain mindfulness. And when we do that, we actually see the roots of things. So when you just are mindful in a moment, that helps, right? You can see, okay, I'm experiencing anger, I'm experiencing pain. But if you can keep it over time, you start to see patterns. It's like you're a scientist and you can see what is the root of that anger, what is the root of that jealousy. So you notice when you're in a cycle of pain, you're looking at the Instagram photos, you wonder why you feel so rotten afterwards. And maybe you saw some girl in your school and she looked so beautiful and you feel like I'm not so beautiful like that. You compare. But then you close your laptop or you turn off the phone and you don't know why. You don't remember why. You feel so lousy. You feel so sad. So the first part of this algorithm is to pay attention to that feeling of sadness, that pain, that hurt. And when you do that, you can look deeply. So that's the second part of the algorithm. You look deeply at the roots. Of your pain. So you don't just stay at the superficial level. If we do that, we just are thrown around by our strong emotions. So you can't do anything about the anger. You can't do anything about the jealousy. You feel like somebody says something, a strong word about you, and you feel so lousy. You feel like, how can they control me like that? So there's no freedom at all, because you're caught in the other person's perceptions. You're caught in what their word is, what they say, and you feel like a victim of them. They're a bully. They're somebody who is using words, using their strength, using their power, their influence to try to control you. And so you're not free at all. Has anybody ever experienced that before? How many of us have experienced bullying? You can be honest. Yeah? I experienced bullying when I was in 8th grade. And I felt it was horrible. I felt so controlled. I felt kind of like fear. Not like fear, fear. Whether I walked down that hallway, if that boy he's a little bit ahead of me in puberty, so he became stronger, and I was very young for my grade, and so he would just punch me, and I wouldn't see it coming. And so suddenly I felt fear for my body. I felt fear, like how somebody is controlling me. Because of that person, I changed my way of walking around the school. Or I try not to go to that class because I want to avoid the painful experience. I don't want to get punched. But more than just the physical pain, it's the shame. Yeah, there's a feeling of pride. Like our hormones are like that. We feel somebody has overpowered us, and so our pride feels damaged. So that's what I felt. And so I just living in the cycle of pain, of just worrying about encountering that bully. And I wasn't so lucky, I didn't have the practice. But you guys, you have that great fortune. You've come here, you've been with the monks and nuns. All of us, we've experienced some kind of suffering, whether trauma or bullying or whatever it is. And that's why we decided to take this path as a monk or nun, because we've discovered that there is a way, there's a kind of algorithm that helps us to transform that fear and suffering. And that's why we can stand up here. That's why I don't feel fear to stand up here in front of you and talk like this. Or my sisters the other day, Sister Boinim, or any of the monks and nuns. It looks like we're just naturally like that, but it's after many years of practice that we feel comfortable to stand here and talk about our own emotions. Most adults, they can't do that. They hide behind a title or a role, or a career, and they study, they get a lot of knowledge in one area, but once they're outside of that area, they don't feel comfortable. As monks and nuns, we've decided to dedicate our whole life to this practice, to applying what I'm telling you right now in every day of our life. And it doesn't mean we don't get distracted, it doesn't mean we don't watch movies ever, or do things like that. But we learn to observe our mind when we're watching the movie, or observe our mind when we use social media, observe our mind when we use email, when we read the news. Everything that we consume, we know can lead to pain and hurt, or to freedom, depending on how we look at it. Are you following what I'm saying? Okay. So the first part, we look right into the pain, the hurt. Yesterday, one of the questions was, what is the favorite meditation? What is your favorite meditation? This is my favorite meditation. Sounds kind of weird, right? Why do you want to look at your pain and your hurt? This is my favorite meditation because when I bring the mindfulness that I generate with being mindful of my breath, being mindful of my eating, and I bring it down here to that painful feeling, because this is why most of the time I feel a painful feeling here, right in my gut. I feel really lousy when somebody says something, or even when I do something that's not very kind, not very compassionate. So I practice to bring my attention right down to my belly. So let's take a moment, let's sit up beautifully again, and we're going to listen to a sound of the bell, and let's practice the belly breathing we learned yesterday. So we can put our hands on our belly, and that helps us to just focus. It's not you can do it without putting your hands on your belly, but it helps sometimes just to put your hands there. That helps you to focus your attention. We'll practice breathing in and out a few times, just aware of what's going on right here. If there's any pain, if you just note any kind of painful feeling. Maybe you feel very clear down here. You're aware of your breath and aware of the feeling. And you can smile. Smile to the feeling in your belly. Okay, can open our eyes. Does that feel better? Yeah? So that's the first exercise, observing the pain. When we see things through our eyes or hear things, we are consuming. Usually when we think of eating or consuming, we just think of our mouth, right? What we put in there, what we're eating. So I'd like you all to go home and practice to see that everything that you look at, everything that you hear is also eating. What you decide to look at on the internet, whatever you decide to watch, like movies or news, whatever it is, you are consuming in that moment, and that becomes you. So when you focus on some superstar musician, or you focus on a sports player, whatever it is, you're following that person. You're becoming, in a way, that person. Throughout this talk, I'd like us to open our minds a little bit to an important teaching of the Buddha that he called non-self. How many of you have heard of non-self? Okay, not many of you. A few of you. So it seems a little bit contradictory because we've heard about how self-care, right, self-acceptance, how to be our own soulmate. We've heard these kind of terms. And I'd like us to go a little bit deeper and practice for a moment to look at our body like a cloud. Does anybody think a cloud has a self? Sometimes we lay down and we look at the cloud. I don't know if you've ever done that, but I used to love laying on the field and looking up at the clouds and seeing the face of somebody, like an old man, or maybe an elephant, or a whale. And we don't really think that there's a whale there. We don't really think there's a man in the cloud. It's a trick of our perception, because we're used to seeing human faces. There's something in our genetic code that drives us to look at human faces. I mean, I could just spend time looking at a little spot on the floor, but somehow I want to look at faces. We're always attracted to faces. And if you pay attention, it's very interesting. When you see somebody, they can be hundreds of feet away, but somehow you know when they're looking at you. Did you ever notice that? We take it for granted, but try it sometime. When somebody is very far away, you look at them, and you can see, even though they're very, very far away, these tiny little dots in our eyes, the pupil, we can tell when it's looking at us. Because we have a deep concern what other people are thinking of us and what people are planning. We always want to know what the people around us are doing. So we have this capacity to look at faces and decide, is that person bored? Are they excited? Are they looking at me? Are they looking at somebody else? And that is part of a natural tendency we have. That's part of our nature. It's not something we have to really train in. We're born like that. From the moment we see our mom's face when we're born, we already feel more peaceful. If we don't see our mother's face, and some babies, they're born and they're separated from their mother and they have trauma their whole lives. That first few hours, the first few days is so important. That's why, I don't know if you've ever seen when, sometimes you see in movies or when there's a video of somebody being born, and they take the baby and they put it right away on the mother's chest. There's a kind of oxytocin, kind of hormone that is transmitted, that is generated in the baby, and it heals, it creates a sense of safety. And if you try, sometimes I like to play, we had the family retreat, and you can do something fun with little kids. You put your hand on your face like this, and then you go. You guys are too old, you know? But if you do it with little babies, they become very excited because somehow the face disappears. They don't know how. And then suddenly it reappears again. And they are very shocked because they're used to seeing a face very gradually coming towards them from a distance. And they don't understand that your hands are covering your face. They just see the face has disappeared, and then suddenly it appears again. It's very funny. Try it with a 2-year-old or 3-year-old, and they will laugh, almost certainly. If you do it a few times, they will start laughing. And it works very well when kids are crying because they're very confused. They don't know yet, they don't have the understanding that you are there even though they can't see you. They don't know that yet. So you guys all know that. You don't think like Brother Phap disappeared. So you're just like, I'm cool. That weird monk, he's just putting his hands on his face. But the baby doesn't know that. So we have this tendency to look towards faces and create them. So when we look at the cloud, we are putting the faces in the cloud with our thinking. That's a product of our mind. And most of our suffering is like that. It's a product of our thinking. It's not coming from outside of us. All of our conditioning, all of the situations we've been in before, we project them out like a cinematographer. We are the filmmaker of our own movie. And right now we're living the movie of a teen. And each one of us has its own, each one of our films has its own script. And we're writing it all the time in our mind. We're telling the story. We're somebody who's popular, we're somebody who's lonely. We're somebody who's smart and talented, we're somebody who's dumb, stupid. And from one moment to the next, we might be one thing or the other. This morning, I'm smart and talented because somebody said something nice about me. A few minutes later, I'm stupid, I'm dumb because somebody insulted me. Or my friends left me behind. They didn't invite me to go sit at the table with them. And our emotions are like that. Depending on the story, from moment to moment, minute to minute, it goes up and down. So what is the truth? Are we somebody who's smart and talented, or are we somebody who's dumb and stupid? I don't like to say those words, but that's sometimes the kind of language we use. Even worse. So when we talk about self-care, when we talk about being a soulmate to yourself, what I want to propose is it means we're getting the insight that that narrative, that story, is only something that we're creating. The cloud, it doesn't have a story. When conditions are sufficient, the cloud manifests. So when the sun shines on the ocean, the water evaporates and it goes up and forms a cloud. And when it comes over the earth, it gets pushed up higher by the mountains, then that cloud can become the rain and come down. And then the cloud disappears and we wonder what happened to our beautiful cloud. This is a teaching that our teacher gave over and over and over again. We think that the cloud dies when it becomes a rain. It's because we don't know to look into the nature of the rain. Its nature is cloud. This orange juice also has the nature of cloud. So, thanks to the rain, the water ran down the mountain and nourished the roots of the orange tree and produced beautiful flowers, very fragrant flowers. And slowly those flowers, with enough sunlight, with enough nutrients, they turned into a tasty orange. And that orange ended up in Clarity Hamlet, and my Sister Ancient Temple, she's also inside this glass of orange juice. Can you imagine? Sister Ancient Temple can fit inside this Starbucks glass of... But she is in there. No, you don't believe. She's right there, right? You don't want to believe she's inside the glass, but it's true. Because she is one of the conditions that made this orange juice possible. Without Sister Ancient Temple, this glass of orange juice could not be possible. So the cloud is in there, Sister Ancient Temple is in there. The flowers from the orange tree are in there. This is an insight we call interbeing. And I think we already have learned about this. Actually, interbeing is not separate from non-self. There are two ways of looking at the same thing. How many of us understand interbeing? No, nobody, okay. Interbeing, it means we cannot be by ourselves alone. Somehow we have a tendency to think that we can be free, cut off from everything. We try to isolate ourselves when we feel hurt, when we feel judged. But if we look deeply into our own body, we see that we can never be by ourselves alone. And this is something I practice every day. So when I look in the mirror, like this morning, I took a shower. And afterwards I had to look in the mirror to see if I had, because I was shaving, and I had to make sure I shave all of my beard, so I don't look like I have like little patches of beard like this. And so I was looking into the mirror, and to be honest, I don't see myself. I see a face, I see some eyes, I see a little bit of hair here maybe, but I don't pretend to think that that is a separate self, a me, like Brother Phap or Brother Stream. Because I had a lot of experience with this before, especially growing up as a teen, where I judge myself, where like I said, sometimes I think I'm great, I'm wonderful, and then other times I think I'm horrible, I'm stupid, I'm weak. So I practice now when I look in the mirror to not make those kind of stories about who I observe in the mirror. Not good, not bad. Only like that. Only like that. Means I don't judge that thing as being good, being evil, being wonderful, being horrible. I train myself to go beyond this mind of comparing myself with my brothers and sisters, because the monks and nuns, they compare themselves. Sometimes the monks and nuns, they think, like some monk and nun thinks, I'm very popular in the monastic sangha. When I say something, everyone does it. Some of us want to control. Others, they think, oh, I'm not important. I'm nobody important in the sangha. I'm just somebody, I just follow the schedule, but I'm not important. Both of those stories are just stories. Because we know everyone in the sangha, all the monastics are important. All of us are important. All of us are so important. That is why we are here. We're spending all this time, all this love, all this care to teach you guys, to open your heart. It's not really teaching, actually. All of us, we just opened our heart to this deeper kind of training, mind training, to be able to be free from all these perceptions which are put on us by other people, by our ancestors, by our parents, by our teachers, by films, by music, all of these things. We want to be truly free, to be able to stand and not have any anxiety and worry. I have a feeling deep in my heart, I got this feeling during the retreat. I said, somewhere in this retreat, there will be a great future Zen master. Somewhere in this room, there is a great Zen master who will realize all of what I'm saying and will be able to teach it to many, many thousands of young people. Anybody know who it is? If you look around a little bit, who do you think it is? Who's the great future Zen master? I see some pointing. It's true. There is at least one. I see a lot of nomination. Maybe we can listen to a sound of the bell. I'm getting pulled by the wire here. Let's listen to the sound of the bell. Actually, when we practice looking at our pain, our hurt, we all become a Zen master. So let's practice that right now. You don't have to put your hands on your belly, but just bring your attention down from the level of your thinking and bring all your attention to whatever kind of pain or hurt you're feeling in your body. So I'm going to explain a little bit what we mean by non-self and interbeing. Now you see it?
No, where'd it go?
See, this is mindfulness of suffering. What happened to the cat? I think there's a skilled artist here who can make the cat manifest again. So there are 5 things that make us suffer because we always want to hold on to them. We want to grasp at them. We don't want to let go. And the first thing is our body. So we have ideas about our body, that we should look like this, look beautiful, graceful, agile. We should have a 6-pack. We should have big muscles. And we suffer when we don't have those things. Or sometimes we have things, like we feel like we're not, we feel overweight, we feel kind of plain, not beautiful, and we suffer because our body is like that. So we suffer when our body is like something, we don't want it to be like that. We suffer because our body is not like that, and we want it to be like that. That's the first thing that makes us suffer about our idea of ourself. The second thing, our feelings. When we have a very happy, pleasant feeling, we want it to stay forever. And so we try to find ways to make that feeling stay longer. So we grasp onto that person who made us feel happy. It could be our boyfriend, girlfriend, or a partner. It could be food, like some delicious cake, or donuts, or some kind of drink. Sometimes we feel really, really good And this will happen to you. Maybe it hasn't happened to many of you, but some of you, hopefully some of you decide never to drink alcohol. But I've known people who only feel like they can be happy when they get drunk. They feel they drink alcohol until sometimes they can't remember anymore. And they have so much pain and suffering in them that they feel like that being drunk that somehow gets them beyond their suffering. They can be another person. They can get that feeling they're looking for, or using some kind of drug. So that is the second thing we can get attached to. And we think when we have a happy feeling, we think that's me, I'm a happy person. And some of us, when we suffer, we feel like we have a painful feeling. That's us. That's how I suffer. I suffer because of this painful feeling. That is me. The third thing, perceptions, or our thoughts. So this is the area where there's a lot of suffering. We suffer because other people perceive things. We perceive that other people perceive things about us. Who has experienced that before? You say, stop thinking that about me. It's all happening in our head. Let's be focused. Yeah. So really look and be honest with yourself. Notice when you're criticizing yourself. You're taking on the perceptions that you think other people have. They may not be what the other person is thinking at all. Usually that person is not thinking about you at all. But because we are so focused on ourselves, our idea of ourselves, we become obsessed with what that person thinks. So a key part of being free is to be free from what other people perceive about you. All your ideas. That is a practice of non-self. We don't see that any of those thoughts are me, mine, or myself. They're just happening. Because of what they said, because of what they did, it just manifests like that in our mind. And that makes us have bad feelings, unpleasant feelings. So let go of it. So we breathe and we just see this thinking is not me. It's not mine. It's not myself. This is a very deep meditation the Buddha did many, many times with his students. He saw this body is not me, is not mine, is not myself. These feelings are not me, not mine, not myself. This thinking, these perceptions are not me, not mine, not myself. This is a very deep meditation on non-self. So when I saw myself in the mirror this morning, I practiced like that. I see the skin, it manifests because I had a mother and a father. They transmitted the skin to me. These bones in my body, they are transmitted by my parents. My thinking is transmitted by all of my friends, my teachers. It's not me. It's not myself. Actually, you feel very free when you do that. You become free of the story of yourself. The story is just very, very narrow to what this body, this mind, what you experience in the present moment is. It's an entire universe. It's like a whole cosmos in this body. And you want to reduce it to this little story that you tell yourself over and over and over again in your perceptions. So we let go of that. Don't keep holding on to it. Just let it go. So when somebody says something hurtful, just let it go. Just breathe. Don't react. Okay? This is very interesting. So, you let go of your reaction. I don't practice this perfectly, but I try every day. I notice when I react. I know when I react, that means I am still not free. I still have practice to do. I'm still controlled by other people's perceptions, by their words, by their thinking, by their bodily actions. And so I need to practice more. It doesn't mean we become like a robot. Actually, the more you let go of reacting, the more you become a free person. Very natural. It's because we have that habit of reacting to what that person says or does, that hurtful thing, that we are actually more like a robot. We're like an automaton. We behave in predictable ways. So when the monks and nuns, sometimes we come up to give a talk here, we don't even know what we're going to say. It's a meditation for us as well. I'm practicing this meditation that I'm sharing with you. I'm practicing to let go of my perceptions, because I know that in this body there's the insight, authentic insight, like Sister Dee shared. And I trust in that insight. I don't need to make a big effort. I just trust in the insight of my ancestors, of this body, and I know that I can let go of my habitual reaction to perceptions. The fourth thing in the practice of non-self is becoming free of our... Okay, this one is a little bit more difficult. We heard it when we chanted this morning. It's called a mental formation. How many of you have heard of a mental formation before? Not many. We can call it an emotion. Mostly our mental formations, they are our emotions. So feelings are just raw, kind of pleasant, unpleasant, but emotions are much more complex, like anger, like jealousy, like fear, like guilt. So we can write emotions or mental formations. We call it mental formation because we want to understand that it's not something that comes from nowhere. It's something that's formed by our mind. So our mind has at least two levels. We call our mind consciousness, and what we call the store consciousness. This is kind of like the basement, the underground. And then this, you could see it like this kind of screen on the computer. So mind consciousness is whatever is manifesting, whatever is up there in the present moment. And the store is what we don't see. It's there, but it's not manifesting in our mind consciousness right now. So, for example, most of us are not angry right now. I hope you're not angry at this Dhamma talk. Some of us might be a little bit bored. Some of us might be a little bit sad that we're leaving Deer Park today. Anyway, we might have different kinds of emotions. manifesting in our mind consciousness. But many of us are also calm right now. We feel peaceful. So that is a mental formation, kind of emotion, calm, peace. Some of us have mindfulness. We're paying attention to the Dhamma talk, what I'm saying, and so then we have mindfulness. So there's a kind of mental formation we call mindfulness manifesting in our mind consciousness. And that's because we've trained this week to be mindful. So in our store consciousness, we have all kinds of seeds. And like a gardener, if we know how to water those seeds, they can come up in our mind consciousness. So all of what we're doing this week is looking at the seed of mindfulness that's in our store consciousness and inviting it to come up into our mind consciousness. Because that seed of mindfulness has this power of transforming our pain and our hurt. And that's better than any kind of therapy. For me, it's the ultimate therapy because we do it within our own body. It's nice to be able to talk to somebody, but we really need to train ourselves. This is a kind of like a martial art or kung fu. Training ourselves every day a little bit in mindfulness so that seed of mindfulness can become stronger in our consciousness. And we learn how to bring it up whenever we need it, whenever we have some anger or fear or jealousy. So instead of just reacting to our emotions, we can invite mindfulness to come up. And mindfulness has the quality of bringing a light. So it's a kind of shining a light coming up from store. There's a brilliant kind of light that shines on our mind consciousness. It's very brilliant. So within each of us, there's this bright light. And when you turn on the light, then you can see everything clearly. This is the second part of the algorithm, to look deeply at the roots. So when we shine the light of mindfulness on our emotions, on our mental formations, we can see where they're coming from. What kind of things we've been consuming through our eyes, through our ears, through all of our senses that has caused that kind of pain and hurt to manifest. This is the most important thing. I can't tell you how important this is. This is all what this training is about. If you get this point, you can be really free. You can be a happy person. Because once you see the roots of your pain, the roots of your suffering, your hurt, then you can practice the third part of the algorithm to stop the pain. Stop the hurt. It's like when you're, like my sister and I, when we were young, we used to bicker a lot. We used to get on each other's nerves. Did anybody ever do that to their sibling? I don't know why. We just, actually we love each other very much, but somehow we just are always picking on each other or making fun of each other. And sometimes my sister just says, "Stop it!" She wants to stop the pain. She's feeling pain, she's suffering, and she wants me to stop. Stop saying that thing. Stop doing that thing that's so annoying. So actually we do that inside of ourselves all the time. we're picking at our pain. We're actually making fun of ourselves, criticizing ourselves, judging ourselves through our perceptions, through our thinking. So the practice is to come down, to bring all that mental energy down to the ground. So like we learned this week, when we practice walking meditation, we let all of our perceptions go down through our body and go into the earth. So we release it. We let go of it. We don't continue to hold on to it and think it's me or mine or myself. We just let it go. Actually, our body is not separate from the earth. We are born from Mother Earth, just like the orange in the orange juice. So just like the cloud is born from the surface of the ocean and the sun, we are also born from the earth, from the food that's raised from the cloud. All these things, they contribute to who we are. That is why we talk about interbeing. It means we are not separate from the earth. And so we can take refuge in the earth anytime we have some painful feelings, some painful thinking, and just let it go down into the earth and release it. You can do it, Joseph? All right. So we stop the pain. We invite the mindfulness to come up into our mind consciousness. So if this is the seed of anger, right here in our store consciousness, when it comes up here, like a flower, because anger is a kind of flower in the garden of our mind. This light can shine on it and has the quality of embracing the anger. We understand the roots. Every time we get angry, we strengthen the seed of anger in our store consciousness. And so that's why the monks and nuns, we practice being so peaceful. It doesn't mean we don't get angry. I know for sure if you lived in the Deer Park with Brother Phap, you know that Brother Phap sometimes gets angry. But in the retreat, it looks like Brother Phap is so peaceful and calm and happy. But I also have all kinds of habits, and I learn from them. I try to transform them. I practice to see the roots and get transformation and healing. So by shining the light on anger, we can stop the pain. We can stop the hurt. When we notice that we're comparing ourselves, we bring our attention back down. We bring it here to our belly. We just see the pain that's caused by that thinking. This is what a Zen master knows how to do. This is why they seem so natural and free. When you see a monk or a nun, and they're very light, very joyful, it's because they know how to transform their pain and their hurt. They're doing it all the time. This kind of focus, this kind of attention, they're doing every moment. Okay. And the last thing, just as we finish, the last thing we get attached to is our consciousness. It means our senses. So, we're very young, all of us now. We have, most of us have good eyesight. Some of us have glasses. We need glasses to help us to read more clearly. But as we get older, our senses start to deteriorate. And, I have sometimes more trouble to see things clearly. Our hearing starts going off. And we can suffer. We can feel like, oh, I'm losing my capacity to see things clearly. I'm losing my capacity to hear things clearly. We think this eyesight is me. This hearing is me. This taste is me. Recently, I got the flu, and it was kind of like, it wasn't COVID, but somehow at the end of it, I lost my sense of taste, my smell. How many of you lost your taste or smell with COVID? Yeah, a few of us. And this was not COVID. I had that happen before, but this time it was just some flu, because I tested it was negative. But somehow I lost my taste and my smell for a couple weeks in June. And I was suffering a little bit. I have an attachment to my taste and smell. I want to be able to taste the food when I'm eating it, not just like put it in my mouth and feel it there, but I can't taste it. When you have that feeling, it's a little bit scary. I feel like I saw that I still had some attachment to my taste consciousness, my smell consciousness. I think this is me, this is mine. But when conditions are like that, there's no taste, no smell. And I practice with it, and I let go of that attachment to my consciousness of taste, my consciousness of smell. Because I know that someday, I probably won't be able to taste very much at all. When I'm very old, someday, I might not be able to see very clearly. Like now I see all of your faces very clearly, but I know that it won't always be like that. So I really appreciate the present moment. I enjoy the manifestation of all your faces right here in the present moment. So these 5 things, as we go home, I'd like you to look at them. Your body, your feelings, your perceptions, your mental formations, your emotions, and your consciousness. See when you get attached to any of those things. You know because you have a strong emotion. That's how you know. If you get angry, there's some attachment. If you feel jealousy, there's an attachment there. Recognize it and look deeply at its roots. So you stop, like Sister Fu Ngim shared with us. You pause and breathe. You step back. Don't react. Okay? Stop and look at it. Recognize it. This is pain. This is really going on. You're really experiencing this pain, this hurt. Take a moment to look at it with your inner eye. That's what we've been cultivating, our inner eye of mindfulness. We shine the light of mindfulness on that emotion. And you'll see its roots. You'll notice what it is that you've been thinking and that what that person said that's causing you to suffer. And you let go of it. Next time you have that kind of thought, don't give any attention to it. Bring your attention to your breathing. This is a training. Instead of putting your attention on your thinking, put your attention on your breathing. And let go of the thinking. Don't let it control your mind. This is the mind training that we're learning here. All of what we've learned this week, all the mindful breathing, mindful walking, mindful eating, it's so we can learn this point. How to train our mind to be mindful in every moment of what's going on inside our body, inside our mind, in our emotions. When we can do that, we can be truly free. That is what you see. That's why you come here. When you see the monks and nuns and they feel so, they're smiling, you think they pay us a lot of money just to force ourselves to smile? Why do the monks and nuns put all this energy taking care of you? We don't get any salary. Yeah, we feel a lot of love for you guys. We just want you to feel this kind of freedom that we feel every day. That's why we put all this time and energy. So I'll finish with the last part of our algorithm, which is the path. Walk the path. What does it mean to walk the path? So what we received this morning, the 5 mindfulness trainings, that is the path. We're determined, aware of the suffering caused by killing living beings. We're determined not to kill. Aware of the suffering caused by stealing. We're committed to respecting the property of others, including their body. Yeah. We respect others. The 3rd mindfulness training, practicing not getting caught in sexual desire, so we can really be autonomous and free, dignified in our body. If we respect the bodies of others, we will respect our own body. Not lying, being honest, truthful. Brother Phap shared, sometimes we share something, it's very true, but it might be a bit hurtful to that person. But if we're a true friend, then we know that maybe in 20 years they will thank us. I really like that phrase. Sometimes it's like that. We have to be really honest. But we also need to be honest with ourselves. And notice when we're telling ourselves stories, I want clarity in my life. I don't want to be living a story that I tell myself about who I am or what I am. I want to be a true person, truly free. So that is walking the path. And the 5th mindfulness training, right consumption. So just like we said, looking at the roots of suffering, we see that we're feeding our suffering. So when we pay attention to what we're consuming through our eyes, our ears, all of our senses, then we can know exactly what to do and what not to do. I'm so grateful you all are here. Who wants to come back to teen camp next year? All right. So we'll finish with 3 sounds of the bell. And then we'll have a chance to gather and say our final goodbyes to each other. Actually, there's no goodbye. No coming, no going. It's a beautiful song that we sing. And when we look deeply, we see that it looks like we're leaving, but Deer Park is in your heart. You have no choice. You have to take us with you. And we are also taking you with us. We take the teens with you. But we don't have to hold on to your body or your feelings or your perceptions. You're already there. That is the nature of interbeing. So let's come back to our body, come back to our breathing. Sit up beautifully. So let's be a really noble person on this planet. We can have our back straight. Yeah. Please, in this lifetime, I hope that you all keep your back straight. Yeah. Let's be an upright person in this lifetime. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. In, out.